Good afternoon. So my name is Dr. Najwa Nambusi, MMed Psych 1, and my presentation, like Dr. said, is on etiology and the pathophysiology of dissociative disorders. So I'll first talk about the prevalence of these disorders. These statistical figures were basically mainly from research that was done in Europe, North America, and Asia, as we don't have that much research that's been done on these disorders in our settings. So we have the dissociative amnesia, which has been reported in a range of approximately 2 to 6% of the general population, with a male to female ratio as 1:1. And then we have the dissociative identity disorder, whereby the ratio of male to female to male is 9:1 for the diagnosed cases. The prevalence of the dissociative disorders in patients and inpatients and outpatient psychiatric settings seem to be around 10%, while approximately half of them have dissociative identity disorder. So basically, etiology, these are the factors that are responsible for or related to the development of a disorder, and the pathophysiology is the functional changes that accompany a particular syndrome or a disease. So the first etiological factor I'm going to talk about are traumatic experiences. So traumatic experiences such as physical or sexual abuse, these are not only physical traumatic experiences, but also emotional and psychological traumatic experiences. So such as physical or sexual abuse, especially in childhood, natural disasters and so on, can induce these disorders. In some cases, the trauma is caused by betrayal by a trusted or needed other, for instance, a parent, a sibling, a guardian, and this is known as betrayal trauma. This betrayal is thought to influence the way in which the event is processed and remembered by the individual. So accident victims, especially those who've been involved in life-threatening accidents, can experience transient dissociative disorders like depersonalization during the event or immediately thereafter. So we also have the psychosocial factors. So experiences that the person experiences conflicts over unacceptable urges or impulses, such as intense sexuality, suicide, or violent compulsions. So this is mainly based on the psychoanalytic theory that was theorized by Sigmund Freud. I think everyone knows him. He's the founder of psychoanalysis. So basically, his theory stated that childhood experiences and unconscious desires or urges influence a person's personality. So we also have the patient experiences intolerable emotions of shame, guilt, despair, rage, desperation in case they feel like they need to get out of a certain situation and they're unable to, so they're desperate to get out. And then in case they feel guilty for maybe putting themselves in a certain situation. So this is Sigmund Freud at age 47. So we have the psychodynamic as well, the psychodynamic factors. So traditional psychodynamic theories have emphasized the disintegration of the ego. So also this is also based on the psychoanalytic theory of Sigmund Freud. So he stated 3 levels of thinking. We have the unconscious, the preconscious, and the conscious, whereby the conscious is what somebody is aware of. Then we have the preconscious, where it's a thought that's at the back of your mind, however, you're aware of it. It's just not at your forefront thought. It's not a forefront thought. And then we have the unconscious, whereby it's at the back of your mind and you're also unaware of it. And he also stated a structural personality structure that consists of three structures that includes the ego, the id, the ego, and the superego. whereby the id are your inborn desires that are the pleasure-seeking desires. And then you have the superego, which is your conscious or your morals that you've internalized throughout your lifetime in an environment or a society. And then you have the ego, which is which mediates these two. So basically, if you have the ego, which is also a coping mechanism that's disintegrated or it's failing to cope with a certain situation, then dissociation can set in as a defense for that failed mechanism. So we have the dissociative disorder. This explanation stresses the role of all overwhelming painful experiences or conflictual impulses as triggering events. So we also have the iatrogenic factors. The widespread publicity given to some people with multiple personality, which is now known as the dissociative identity disorder. So basically, if you have a lot of images in the media that are concerned with this disorder, and then you have an individual who's susceptible to getting this disorder, they can easily believe that they actually have that disorder if they're being exposed to that kind of media over and over again. So we also have some therapists who easily believe that patients have this disorder, or easily believe what the patient tells them, and make this diagnosis even when it's not based on the criteria to make that diagnosis. So we also have the use of hypnosis, which is basically the use of hypnosis, whereby an individual is put into a state of consciousness that can easily be influenced by the person carrying out that hypnosis. So if this happens and that person is in that state, that state can easily be transformed into a personality or an alter. So we also have the neurological theories. The first one is the depletion of L-tryptophan, a serotonin precursor, and this is associated with the increase of depersonalization symptoms. So we also have the implication of N-methyl-D aspartate, NMDA, a subtype of the glutamate receptor. So basically, this N-methyl-D aspartate is an amino acid derivative that binds onto this NMDA glutamate receptor and mimics the action of glutamate. And in so doing, it can cause detachment and depersonalization. So we also have neuroimaging. So over the years, many neuroimaging studies have been done, and these have shown a number of significant changes that occur within a person who has dissociative disorder. The first one showed the alternation in the limbic system. So the hippocampus and the amygdala of dissociative identity disorder patients were found to be remarkably smaller, at 19.2% and 31.6% respectively. So here we have the amygdala and the hippocampus. So the second study showed a reduced cerebral blood flow in the bilateral orbitofrontal cortex, which we have here. So the orbitofrontal cortex basically is responsible for decision making. So according to SAR, if you have reduced blood supply to this area and then it has dysfunction, it experiences dysfunction and is unable to make decisions, a person can become impulsive. So that impulsivity is thought to be seen dissociative disorders. So the blood supply to that area is mainly the orbital frontal artery, a branch of the anterior cerebral artery. So these are references.